What's going on, cyclocross fans? Welcome back to BTB TV. I'm Colt McElwain, joined today by Elle Anderson, the very lovely Elle Anderson. Welcome.
Thank you. Really nice to be here.
It's great to be with you. We're here in Las Vegas right now. We just came off Cross Vegas. We had a lot of exciting stuff to talk about for you this season, but let's jump in the time machine. Let's go way back when, before people knew who you were in a cycling sense. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? What were you like as a little girl?
Yeah, I grew up in Vermont in a little ski town called Stowe. And I was on skis really early. Nordic skis, alpine skis, 2 years old. I think even before I was 2, I would ski in a backpack. So my mom was really intent on that because she was a professional ski racer back in the day. So for the first chunk of my life, I was a skier, competitive alpine ski racer, and sort of followed that for a while, and eventually fell into cycling after 2 knee surgeries.
Well, so yeah, you followed it for quite a while. I mean, you for those who don't know, Stowe is like, if you're not from Stowe, that's where you go to be a competitive ski racer. Through school, you went to like a ski-specific academy, right?
Yeah, it's called Burke Mountain Academy. It's the same academy that Amy Dabrowski went to, and it's a little boarding school just for ski racers, and you live the life. You go to school half the day and ski half the day, so that was my high school.
You were going to be a professional skier. I mean, that must have been your mindset the whole time.
Very much so. I think everything from growing up and seeing my mom's trophies all around, and feeling like I just wanted to be as good as my mom, and just getting more and more into the sport, really feeling like I was getting some traction. And yeah, I would think of my life and be like, yeah, I want to be a ski racer. I want to go to the Olympics. And it was definitely one of those moments I always remember when I kind of had to come to terms with my injuries and really just kind of find a new identity, try to find a new sport, and I'm really lucky I found cycling.
Was cycling something that you did much of? I know a lot of skiers train on the bike. Was that the case?
I did train. I think I grew up mountain biking a lot. I mean, I had a mountain bike. I wouldn't say I really, mountain biked in a really serious sense, but I...
Did you ever race as a junior?
I know I never raced or anything. I'd just bomb around on the trails. The cross-country trails in the summer would be really good for mountain biking. And my dad set me up on a road bike when I was in 9th grade. And so in the summers for cross training, I do a combination of road and mountain and just kind of tool around as a great way to stay in shape.
So what was the injury that ultimately ended the skiing?
It was an ACL injury. So I first injured my knee in a downhill race going into my senior year. And so I spent my whole senior year kind of on the bench recovering. And then I took a post-grad year after high school, and I tore my ACL again at the end of that. So kind of a year and a half apart. 2 pretty intensive knee surgeries that take about 6 to 10 months to fully recover.
That's got to be so hard. You spend so long of your life focusing on this goal and this type of being an athlete. I mean, when you said it just a second ago, you said, so I had to find something else as another sport. But did you think that? Did you think, well, I just have to find a new sport now? Or did you think that your athletic career, your professional sports career was over at that point?
It really felt like the world was over.
Yeah.
That I really felt lost for a couple months, and at that time I didn't see cycling as something new that I could pursue in a professional sense. That really didn't cross my mind during that transition period. It was like, well, cycling's fun and it's maybe an athletic outlet, and I was kind of very much against. I was kind of wanted to keep it in the hobby phase, like, okay, great, like maybe I can spend my time cycling, but I was, for many months I did have to work through a lot of things about ski racing and about sort of accepting that I was going to walk away from something that I cared so much about. And you spend, 6 to 8 years I spent with this dream, kind of putting it on a pedestal of where I wanted to be, where I wanted to go, and the kind of goals I wanted to reach. And, that's a lot of work that you invest. And so I think walking away from that, I had a really new appreciation for that kind of commitment and that kind of goal setting and the drive and determination to actually get somewhere, and then also what happens when you do change. And it can be really nice to change sports and to find a new passion, and I think I really liked cycling because I could start at square one and I didn't have to worry about the sharp edge at first. I could just worry about the basics. But at the same time, I think I still carry baggage a little bit of the what ifs if it had been differently, where I would be in terms of ski racing.
Yeah, and I guess you're somewhat lucky in the sense that a lot of women do come into cycling later in their lives and can be very successful in it. At what point, once you took up cycling, did you maybe start to race, and then at what point did you ever start to think about this could be a career option?
Well, the first part, I mean, I started racing kind of really soon after I started, finished ski racing and started cycling because I was in college, and the college team.
Where did you go to school?
Dartmouth College, and so it was, I kind of knew that there was a cycling team there, and it ended up being a really fun environment and with, just a good momentum and really a good vibe on the team. So I really just kind of let myself get carried along in that process, and the women's captain would take me on rides and, show me how to sprint and stuff like that. So I had a really nice kind of entry into cycling. But it's the part about thinking of it as an option to race professionally really has happened within the last year. I think for so long I mentally kept cycling in the hobby category, that it was just something I did for fun. And I think a lot of that ties back to ski racing. I felt a little wounded. It was, I put all my eggs in one basket. It was like, this is what I want to be. I want to be a ski racer. And so it took me, I think, a long time to sort of be able to accept that same mentality for a different sport. But I think after a couple of years, I'm feeling better about it.
It seems like the fitness came along pretty quickly, but tell me about the skill, the technique side of it. How were you able to master that?
Yeah, well, I think I spent a little bit of time on a mountain bike when I was little, but in a lot of ways, I think cyclocross came naturally to me because of the kind of balance and skills and cornering that I may have picked up in ski racing. Mm-hmm. And so, going downhill on a bike, I think is one example of probably, something that I'm more comfortable with than someone who doesn't have a ski racing background. And also just the cornering, sometimes a cyclocross race can almost feel like you're turning around gates, especially if there's like a little twisty section. The weight distribution and how you time a corner and how you shift your weight to sort of maximize that exit and kind of that explosive power coming out of a turn. It's pretty funny how it can be so similar to running a ski course. So I think in those ways it kind of, it reminds me of my background, and it's really fun to sort of take those skills that I may have learned along the way. And because in some cases I think about all the years I spent ski racing, and it's almost like, well, why did I spend so much time developing these skills that I may not use today? So it's kind of neat to actually kind of just tweak them slightly and use them in a new context. And every day I appreciate that I have certain skills that I can apply in new ways.
Is there like a single, is there like a motto or something while you're racing that from skiing that you will like tell yourself or remind yourself about this particular type of corner or something?
I think one of the things that I told myself the most as a ski racer was look ahead. It was very much a part of going down a ski course. You always had to look 2 gates ahead. Mm-hmm. So I think that might be something that I just instinctively take with me in cyclocross is, you always got to be thinking about what's coming next on the course to prepare yourself. Is it the sand pit? Is it the flyover? Is it the super muddy turn? And kind of having that, the visualization skills. I mean, you want to look ahead in a ski course, but you also have to memorize what's coming next. You kind of memorize each turn, and it's a lot of visualization. And I think I take both those skills with me for a cyclocross course. It's in a very similar way.
Coming from New England myself, a lot of us, we were familiar with you from the local series there, and you had good success. I would say the success that, we'd know your name, you could make the top 5 in a local race, but I think some people expected you to go on to big time career, maybe race in Europe, and others thought, well, this is, a lot of women just stay at that level. Then you took a job with Strava out in San Francisco, and I think a lot of us thought, okay, so she's moving on from bike racing more so to focus on a career. We know now that that's ultimately not the case, but when you took that job, was it a part of you saying, I'm going to focus on my career versus cycling, or did you always think I can take cycling with me and focus on both?
I think the great part about Strava is that it has such a great company culture where I really, it meshed so well that I really felt like I could bring cycling along. And I think riding in California was something that was going to be really cool. And I'd never really lived in another part of the country and never lived in an environment where I could train in the winter. So I was excited about that. I think, it's just really fun to work at a company that sort of meshes what I like to do in my free time and what I like to do in the workplace. And so the kind of slogan that I always heard around Strava was there's always time for a ride.
Yeah.
Whether you can't really interpret that literally, but it's that kind of signifies that the company culture is very encouraging of all of us going out there and having a good time and kind of enjoying the product that we build. And so from the very beginning, I always enjoyed that.
Yeah, and in hindsight now, it's like the best thing you could have done for your career, it seems, just based on last season. And so again, like we said off camera earlier, it's like, we talk a lot individual races and race by race, but now that we sort of have a chance to look at it as a whole, looking at last season and what you did, and I thought about this a few times over the summer, just when I would hear about what you were up to, and it still hasn't even sunk in for me to have a rider who came from being a top 15 rider, a top 10 rider, to just like, oh my God, she just won a race, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and another one. What was that experience like, riding that wave from week to week?
Man, it's hard to kind of describe it in words. It kind of felt so normal in a way, because it sort of felt like any other race,
Yeah.
Except maybe sweeter at the end. But I think, I think I had some success in ski racing too. So the concept of winning races was, not necessarily something that I experienced for the first time in cycling. And it mostly was just really nice surprises along the way. It wasn't anything I really had prepared for, because I was just sort of doing what I had done the previous year. It was just keep training and keep and still enjoying myself at the races. So when I think back to last year, I think of it as just really just enjoying myself and riding the wave, and it can just, whatever happened, I was kind of really happy with it. And I think I'll always remember it as really low pressure racing, because I didn't have any expectations on myself, or maybe I didn't feel like a lot of people had expectations on me, but I could just show up and have a lot of fun with it. And it was, at the end of the day, just something that I think I'll remember last year.
Coming into this season now, the expectations couldn't be higher. I mean, everyone now expects you to come out and do that on a regular basis. How much do you feel that? How much was your preparation for this season different based on that?
Yeah, I definitely, it does feel a little bit different in my mind, I think, mostly because I kind of remember last year and I say, well, I want to do that again, or even better, because you get addicted to that, right? You get addicted to that feeling of just crushing it in a race, and that's kind of what we all live for. So I think, as in terms of approach of the season, I very much want to carry on that momentum, but I've also chosen to do something very, very different this year. So I think at the same time, I sort of get another opportunity to be really open-minded and just ride the wave again this year, because I've sort of introduced so many new variables into my plans for this coming season that, who knows, I think it's just going to be a wild journey again. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, let's talk about those. I mean, there's the expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
You've changed everything. I mean, about the season, a new team, a new schedule, a new country. Tell me about what you have on tap for this year.
So I'm going to live in Belgium for 5 months and race the full European cyclocross circuit. And I don't think I would have ever thought I would have done that this year. I think maybe I was like, maybe I'll think of that sometime in the future.
Yeah.
But the opportunity really kind of landed in front of me, and it was a really interesting process to try to decide, because I was asking myself that same question, like, well, I could just stay in the U.S. Like, I could just, do the same thing again, and it was a blast. I mean, I loved riding for Cal Giant. It was such a great team, and the U.S. circuit is so much fun. There's so much energy, and it's really something that I love. I love supporting what we have here in the U.S. But at the same time, this kind of dream opportunity landed in front of me, and I just decided to take it. So it is going to be different. There's going to be all different courses that I'm going to ride, with conditions that are so different than the U.S. for the majority of the time, and it's going to be a new team and different teammates that aren't American, and a whole different kind of support crew and environment. And I sort of think of it as the same sport, but different in so many ways, because it's like a different language. We may have like a cyclocross language in the U.S., but then there's that European cyclocross language that I really expect to have to learn, to learn how things work over there.
And you've had a taste of that here and there with a little bit of European racing in the past, but from those experiences, how do you feel your skill set translate? Are you more confident on those courses, less so?
I think, I think I've had decent experience in the mud, because we get good muddy conditions in the U.S. and I've raced a little bit in Europe. But I do sort of think of it as a skill set that I really want to hone, and I think I will hone in Europe, because it's not something I'm super comfortable with. Or there was a couple of races I did over the Christmas block in Europe last year. They were really deep mud, and I felt like I was standing still, and all these European girls are just passing me in these mud bogs, and I couldn't figure out why I felt like I weighed 200 pounds more than everyone else out there. So, that didn't happen in every race, but there was a couple things that popped up just in racing in the European races that I really thought that there were things that I could work on. So I think it's going to be a fun challenge to be over in Europe and just to have to observe and watch and start at square one with some new things, some new challenges, and some new skill sets. So again, that's kind of how I came into cycling, is really enjoying that process, and it's really exciting to be able to kind of keep that going.
Is the experience alone going to make it a success, or do you need to do something else while you're over there?
I think my feeling right now is that the experience alone is going to be pretty significant, just because there's really no way I can't improve certain skills, and it's really hard to think of a way that I can't sort of improve as a rider when I'm over there on the really tough European circuit. So in a sense, just committing to this challenge of racing in Europe, I feel like I'm already going to get a certain amount better. And I think in my mind I'm leaving it really open-ended in terms of like concrete goals or certain results, because I do want to just give myself the chance to enjoy that process and to sort of learn those new skills and not put a lot of pressure on myself. And I think that's a good way to approach it.
Heading over to Europe this year, full-time, heading over in the past just for individual trips. I know a lot of racers here sort of look at Europe as this really just foreign place in this really confusing world of bike racing, and a lot of people want to go over, but they don't really know how to approach that, all the logistics that go into not just getting there, getting to the races, but getting entry into these races and things like start money and contracts. And tell me about your experience sort of negotiating that world.
Yeah, it's I think I still don't really know what's going on. So a lot of it makes me chuckle, because I think I will have so many answers when I actually get over there. So I do feel like I'm a bit in the dark now, but it's sort of the fun mystery of the concept of racing in Belgium is that I don't quite know how the pieces fall together yet. But back in April, I made a special trip just for one weekend all the way to Europe, and signed my name on a dotted line, and maybe thought that was it. But there's been a lot of prep that I've been going through in the last pretty much all summer, and definitely ramping up in the last couple weeks. And it's the simplest things, like maybe it's just the time zone where emails take extra time to go back and forth, and having kind of all my equipment assembled in Europe, and then trying to get it over here to start my season. And I think there's just been the little things, and then there's been the big things, like having a place to stay. And I'm really grateful to have wonderful hosts over in Belgium that are just going to take me in and take care of me and kind of help me figure out all the little things. And so I think what helps me feel really confident that this is going to be a great season for me is just the people I have around me. I'll be staying with the same family that Amy Dabrowski stayed with, and I just think that they're going to be so helpful and take really good care of me. And I also think that the team has a really great dynamic and support network. So in a lot of ways, it's like kind of these big ticket items. You kind of find yourself a home, and you find yourself the Europeans that know the scene and can help you along the way. And so if I was just going over there by myself, I think it would be a much different story. I'd probably be sweating a lot more of the details, and I'm still sweating a few of the details. But it's really nice just to feel like I have good people over there to take care of me whenever I arrive and solve the little mysteries that I still don't know right now.
When you look down the line, I mean, you're still very young. I don't know if you want to tell people how old you are, but you are
26.
Yeah, exactly. You're not 36 or 46, and so that you have potentially quite a few years ahead of you. Where do you see this going as a career? Where would you like to see it going?
I think it's hard to say, because it's, again, something that I think I've intentionally left open-ended. And I think I'll know a lot after this year. But theoretically, if I really like Europe and I have a really good time racing over there, I think I would like to keep spending time over there, especially because not only is it so challenging and sort of such a hotbed for cyclocross, but it's really where the top level of competition exists. And there's really great competition in the U.S., and it's not saying that one's better than the other, but I think it's really exciting for me to think about racing at that level in Europe against the best in the world every weekend. And to maybe take that so far as to even support myself doing that, I think would be really cool to sort of think of like a 5-year plan of, you know, slowly working my way up the ladder in the European racing scene. So who knows? But I think about that sometimes.
When you go home to visit and you see all those trophies of your mom's, do you feel now in cycling like you've made it to that place that you chased as a kid when you thought about ski racing? Does it feel that same level of...
Not quite yet. I feel like it definitely could be. But I hear some of my mom's adventures, and I feel like I still have my work cut out for me. But one of my favorite stories that maybe I'll feel like I've accomplished in some equal level is when Mom was 19. She actually traveled by herself in Europe and raced a full ski season, just traveling around. And so she'll tell me that I have it easy because I have a place to stay and people to take care of me. She just hitchhiked all over Europe skiing, and she was only 19 and I'm 26. So there's a couple things like that I think are really cool. There are these sort of milestones and stories that my mom has told me that I feel like I can sort of relive in my own way, and it's just, I think, a really really neat thing to have a mom that I really look up to and can sort of chase. And she definitely pushed me ever since I was little just to have those dreams. It's pretty neat.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited to follow you, not just this season, but for the many seasons to come. Thanks, Elle.